Who wouldn't want to take a spin in this prototype for the classic 1953 Corvette? It's just one of the 500 million cars General Motors has manufactured over the years. The company is celebrating that milestone this week after some recent reverses and with a relatively new chief officer in the driver's seat. Anna Werner paid her a visit.
You used to run this plant.
Yes, it's a great workforce.
We met Mary Barra on what for her is familiar ground. The Detroit assembly plant she once managed. What's it like to come back here now as CEO?
Well, it's a lot of fun. I mean, as I walked in, everybody said, welcome back.
You
so good to see you.
She has spent her entire career with the company, and people like Ed Fleming look at her as one of their own. What's this like to see her as CEO now?
Real proud of the fact that I had, interfaced with Mary early in her career, and then to see, her make it to that level in the organization was absolutely phenomenal for us.
I'd like to introduce your new CEO effective next month on the 15th, Mary.
53-year-old Barra took over in January of last year.
Introducing the Chevrolet Bolt EV concept.
She's the company's 5th CEO in 6 years and the first woman to run a major automaker. She started at GM 35 years ago as an 18-year-old intern, then worked her way up from engineer to executive vice president, getting an MBA at Stanford along the way. One of her jobs was head of human resources, where she was famous for cutting down GM's 10-page dress code to just 2 words. And the 2 words were,
dress appropriately.
But Barra didn't envision her own future, including the top job.
The CEO position was never something that I, 5 years ago or 2 years ago, I said, oh, that's what I want to do.
Never thought about it?
Well, I mean, one of my, kind of core principles is whatever job you're doing, just own it and do it like you're going to do it for the rest of your life, because I think that's when you do your best and good things happen.
But not always.
Tonight, more deaths are reported as a recall expands.
Just weeks into her new job, Barra faced one of the biggest challenges in GM's history, recalls that would eventually total more than 30 million vehicles.
Today, General Motors linked 7 more deaths to a faulty ignition switch, and it nearly doubled the number of cars it's recalling.
The most significant recall, 2.6 million older Chevy Cobalts, Saturn Ions, and other vehicles with defective ignition switches that made airbags inoperable, a defect now linked to 90 deaths and 163 injuries.
Ms. Barr, I really hate to say this, but if this is the new GM leadership, it's pretty lacking. And
Barra was grilled by members of Congress about how it happened.
And I am very disappointed, really, as a woman to woman. I am very disappointed because the culture that you are representing here today is a culture of the status quo.
Had you ever testified before?
No, I hadn't.
So what's that like?
It's difficult, but it was a very serious situation, and there were, questions and issues. So we worked hard to focus on the customer and be transparent, and do the right thing.
Doing the right thing, in Barra and GM's view, meant firing 15 employees and later setting up a fund run by attorney Ken Feinberg to compensate crash victims.
Justice has been denied.
Even that hasn't won over all of GM's critics, including consumer advocates and some Democratic senators who stood with victims' families last month. They point out that the compensation fund will only cover some of the victims from recall-related crashes.
It's accountability and responsibility that GM is ducking.
Are you willing to expand the compensation program? Are you considering that?
We extended it 1 month to make sure that everyone had the right information and time to be able to participate. So that's what the program will be, and we're not considering any other changes.
So, as CEO, are you comfortable that everyone that GM should have taken care of is being taken care of?
Again, I think when we look at the extraordinary steps we've taken with the recalls that we did last year, the safety changes that we've put in place and the way we design and engineer our vehicles, I feel that we are a very customer-focused company and, again, on a journey to be a defect-free company.
Here it is,
There was a time when GM's future was not in question.
General Motors' Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac plant, assembling cars in a steady stream.
For decades, it was a titan of the auto industry, the symbol of American industrial might, producing iconic cars
The all-new Corvette Stingray.
like the Chevrolet Corvette
Watch.
and the Camaro.
Brand new one from Chevrolet Camaro.
At one point, GM sold more than half the cars on the nation's roads. But the company lost its way, and before long, sagging sales, high labor costs, and lackluster designs began to take their toll. Then came the financial crisis.
And the hits just keep on coming. GM lost more than $9.5 billion. It wants more government help.
GM filed for bankruptcy.
It was stunning. It was truly stunning what we found in 2009.
Financial manager Steve Ratner was appointed by President Obama to organize the bankruptcy and subsequent government bailout. He saw another reason for the company's problems.
GM had arguably the worst culture of any major company I've ever been around in 30 years.
The worst?
The worst.
Because?
The worst. Because it was bureaucratic, it was slow-moving, it was a get-along, go-along culture.
In fact, GM's internal report on the recalls described how employees would agree to a plan with no intention of following up, something known as the GM nod. In 2009, GM shed its Saab, Saturn, Pontiac, and Hummer brands. While the company returned to profitability the next year, Ratner says there's much more for Mary Barra and GM to do.
They need to have their cars thought of as the next cool thing. They've made some progress, good progress, but there's still a ways to go.
They're not the next cool thing yet.
They're not really cool yet.
I thought you bought a Buick.
This is a Buick, Grandma.
It doesn't look like a Buick.
One program Barra is supervising to heat things up is the continued overhaul of the Buick brand.
I've been riding in Buicks all my life, and this is not a Buick.
For years, seen as your grandmother's stodgy sedan.
That's the play button in the corner.
And GM is also emphasizing the latest technology with Wi-Fi in its cars, an all-electric vehicle for 2017 called the Bolt, and coming soon, Super Cruise, which will let drivers take their hands off the wheel, some of the time. Executive Alicia Bowler-Davis admits the company is playing catch-up.
Well, I think, in our past, sometimes we thought we knew what the customer wanted. What's different now is that we're starting with the customer, and we're asking them, we're getting their feedback.
Hi, I'm Mary Barra from General Motors.
Nice to meet you, my pleasure.
Barra has gotten personally involved, sometimes dropping by local dealerships to hear from customers.
What are you looking at?
The Equinox.
Even making the occasional sales pitch.
It's a nice size, it's got really good turning radius, good fuel economy, it's got great ratings overall, so, well, I'm excited.
And she's brought a bit of her own philosophy to the top job. This mother of two teenagers has told employees that to succeed long-term, they need to balance their work and family lives.
I read where you told people, you know what, some of these meetings are going to end at 5:30 because I've got to get to my daughter's soccer game.
I have done that.
You have?
I have, and I think it's a good message. One, let's get our work done that we said if a meeting was scheduled to end at 5:30, we should get our work done and be efficient and do that. But second, family is important. My children are important, and there are key events in their life I want to be a part of.
So how many hours of sleep a night do you get?
Well, it depends. It depends, but I try to be very balanced because I think it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.